Where's the stinger? There's the stinger.
Too late.
All right.
All right, we're firing Miles from being the the technical side of it.
I've been in the this lobby for like 30 minutes, like figuring stuff out, and then eventually it's like, yeah, you forget the first thing, and it's great. Everything's great. It's all gonna be fine. Which was the first company I was ever a part of. Anyway, welcome to the 5-0 Morning Show, the obnoxiously early Wicked Dicey show. We're your hosts, Corey, Miles, and Cam. If you're joining us for the first time, be sure to like and subscribe. We just hit not 135, but 140 subscribers. Next up, 136 when people drop up today for no reason.
You had a big bump this past week, huh?
Yeah, I think it's your post in Wicked events. I would imagine there's a few folks who hopped on the bandwagon.
Oh yeah, it's true.
The bandwagon that is going along merrily. Joining us today.
I'm here to derail that today.
Yeah. Joining us today for the I crossed out first time is drum roll Corey C. Corey not Prime. I feel like Sam's Prime right now.
Yeah, that one's gotten away from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't been able to take that one back yet.
Yeah.
Who even knows? Thank you for joining us, Corey. This week we have got a few ticket items. 4, in fact. No, it's not 4. I just wrote the number 4. But anyway, one in particular, should all factions be able to go 5-0? We were going to touch a little bit on the MetaWatch article because it's fresh off the press. But before we dive in, hit us up in the comments, Wicked Dicey fam. Tell us how you're doing. Let us know what's on your brain. Or maybe just drop a number of your level of delinquency today and why you're watching us and not doing your work. So on a scale of 1 to 10, drop a number, 10 being lawless. You've just given up on life.
How do I put a 10 in?
I don't even I can comment on this. Let me see. 10. Yep, I can comment. Okay, cool. So anyway, thanks again for joining us. And so let's dive on in. Also, a really quick shout out to anybody from the Wicked events tuning in. Again, we cover a lot of AOS, but we'd love to eventually have some Legion folks on and some Conquest folks and all the folks. So yeah. How are you guys doing?
Spicy.
Doing good.
Good?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to serve up some spice right now.
Yeah, with the car cam. What part
With the
of
car cam, yeah.
What part of Mass are you in right now?
I'm in Newburyport right
Okay.
now. So that's where our office is out of. You're eating up my lunchtime right now, so
Sorry about that.
Oh shit.
I think Cam, you've got to leave a little early for pup training, right?
Yeah, I got puppy preschool. Gotta go to.
I like that.
That's fine.
Is that for you or the dog?
It's for me. Yeah.
that's fine. I'll save my hottest steaks for when he leaves. That way Cam can counter them.
I mean, I don't think I'm that reactionary to stuff like that. But.
Yeah. Cool. So, the question came up in the Discord, and I feel like we had. We lost Cameron there for a second. Oh, he's gone for a second. I feel like we had some flaring up of nerves and attitudes, and Corey, you seem to have led that conversation, and you have quite some strong feelings about it, but also I think some just feelings that we mostly all share, but it's just interesting to talk about and chit chat on. So you sent me over a list of them, so we'll go through them one at a time, unless you have more to add on before that.
I left off 2 of the first point I sent you. There's I have justifications in there, but no, we can just go right down the line on that one.
Okay, cool. So numero uno. Let's see if this works. Bam. Every book should have the capability of going 3-2 and not 5-0. And for context, I just looked over at the MetaWatch because that's a thing, and we can get into that. I've got some spicy opinions on that, but a couple of armies right now are really low on the totem pole, and so that's STD because they have the virus. Night Haunt, Skaven, Nurgle, Cities of Sigmar, SE, all below the sweet spot. So every book should have the capability of going 3-2, not 5-0. Why is that, Corey?
So I definitely have some strong opinions on this one, just because there's so many people that, obviously as things keep getting launched, everyone wants to have the newest and greatest toys and to be sitting on top of the pyramid, on top of the hill. Who doesn't? But I think that a really good, balanced book is the ability to go 3-2. And what I mean by that is that, as a base level, you have a knowledge of the game. You know how to play Age of Sigmar. You can kind of pilot every army just based on your overall knowledge of the game, knowing you need to stand on circles, things like that. Your book should have the ability. If that's all you have is just a knowledge of Sigmar and you're handed the book, you should be able to go 3-2. With that addition of it, if you want to be able to go 4-1, I think that additional 4-1 then needs to be, you need to then know your army really well and know your opponent's potential armies really well. So you need to be able to, Anthony Lawrence is someone who has really, drilled this into specifically my head and Corey's head because we're on his team, that you need enough reps with your army that decisions become automatic. If your opponent moves to A, you need to counter with B. If they go to F, you need to counter with G, H, so on and so forth. As well as knowing what they're going to counter based on your movements. I play Khorne right now. It's kind of the army that I'm getting a lot of reps in. And it's not just important that I need to know what prayers need to go off when, but what do I need to summon to potentially counter what my opponent's doing? Do I need to save my blood type summons, or do I need to save them for, the abilities that I'm doing? Where's Cull on the board, to be able to counter to different people? So that's kind of what I think then is going to bring you into that 4-1. And then the 5-0 is just outright player skill. If you don't have the player skill, then 4-1 might be your cap, and that's fine. But every book by itself should be going 3-2, and you need to be putting those reps in and doing the practice and doing the research and just putting in, the averages into Excel, into AOS Stat Hammer, whatever you need to do to be able to pull into that 4-1, 5-0 bracket. It's not the book.
Okay. On that note, for your 3-2 mark, using current somewhat knowledge and information, can Slaves of Darkness, Night Haunt, Skaven, Nurgle, Cities of Sigmar, and SE, I guess I would even sit around right now, even though it's a weird case, Cities of Sigmar. Can Cities of Sigmar go 3-2?
I think so. I
wouldn't even talk about them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just using that as an example of they're. Well, I guess who's the lowest on that totem pole? Probably SE was the lowest, I think. So can you go 3-2 with SE right now? And we're both SE.
Slaves to Darkness or Stormcast?
Stormcast.
Oh, Stormcast, absolutely. You can go 3-2 with Stormcast.
What's the 3-2 Stormcast list right now?
Probably the same thing. It's honestly always been some form of long strikes, ranged threat with just bodies. You've got the 20 paladin build, which is cute. You've got dragons, which is cute. It's not necessarily, and I'm not saying all books are in the state where they should go 3-2 right now. You definitely have some examples that you said that are kind of rough. Skaven come to mind, but Stormcast definitely have the ability of going 3-2 right now.
And that has a lot to do with although Skaven can't beat let's just say it's Khorne. I don't know if it's the Khorne right now, but Khorne's really far up there right now. But Skaven could go into 4 other really easy matchups because of the counterplay that they have against those other matchups and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I guess let's quantify 3-2 there. Is it 3-2 easily, or is it 3-2 if you're a genius? If you're really good at what you're doing?
3-2 if you've got a pretty good understanding of just the rules of Age of Sigmar. I'm not talking about you just pull a brand new person that's still learning the game and you give it to them. I'm talking about take Corey. If I handed Corey the Khorne book right now, he should be going 3-2 with it type deal. Like that type of thing. You know, a player who is skilled at Age of Sigmar and knows the rules of Age of Sigmar is going to be able to do that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I feel like it harkens back for me. It's like when I kind of came into Sigmar. Again, I'm one of the late bloomers. Like giants, where like you put them on the table and they would just win somehow. Like you could just kind of march them across, know your roles, be a little bit smart and keen. You played like Settlers of Catan back in the day or something like that, and like you could make 3-2 happen with a little bit of luck, a couple of sixes, a couple of this or that. Okay, cool. So we kind of, I think, all agree for the most part. Cameron doesn't, I would imagine. Cameron always has the antithesis answer. Do you agree with this, Cameron, so far?
Yeah, generally I think so. I think what is missing currently from the conversation is not to be like GW bad, but looking at one stat point line is not enough to say, oh, this faction's doing great, right? Because FEC is listed technically higher than Disciples of Tzeentch in terms of win rate, which is just incorrect, basically. Because like maybe the problem is there's no context to this graph, right?
Yeah.
So this graph is taking information from I think every event. So that means 3 game events with like small amounts of people. If you look at it, honestly, they should have another stat line looking at 5-0 events only.
Yeah.
I think all the stats are only predicated on 5-0. 5.
No, not in the.
I believe they take RTTs.
I don't think they do. I think they released an article like a long time ago saying how they did it, and I think RTTs are not part of it.
You think, but then in the video they said they
did they? Okay.
They take RTTs and sometimes team events in consideration.
So whether or not that's true, that's one thing. I have to go look at that. The second thing I would say is, and again, not to be like, oh, GW bad, Rob good, but if you go look at the larger stat breakdown of these factions, you start to see more of like what's actually happening. And so with Flesh Eater Courts, I'm just taking that because I play them and it's been on the mind. But basically, like I've always said, Flesh Eater Courts is a faction that punches down really hard. Flesh Eater Courts is an army that plays very badly into the top bracket of armies, but it absolutely just annihilates armies that are doing worse than them. And I was looking at those stats the other day, and there are stat breakdowns by percentage of like how does this what's the win rate of this army versus a top tier army. And so Flesh Eater Courts drops to like 39 or 40 whatever percent again into the top tier armies, and then it goes to like 63% against the bottom tier armies. So there's some armies that like I don't think you can just look at one win rate percentage and be like, oh yeah, this army can go 3-2. It's got a 50 whatever percent win rate, you know. And then also I think that the other interesting stat metric from Rob is, I think maybe the more useful one is the percent chance to go positive win rate, meaning not going 2-3 but going 3-2 plus. And what's the percent chance an army has to go that route based on, I guess, the amount of data that's available. So like some armies' win rates may be X, but their percent chance to go positive is much higher than other armies. So that's another stat that I think needs to be in the mix.
Yeah. You know,
and then
the
last thing I would
too?
say is win rate's one thing, but there's also something to be said for the health of the book. Whether or not the book can go 5-0 is good, but like the health of the book, meaning is there only one build viable? Is it internally balanced versus externally balanced? It needs to be both, technically. For it to be a good book. To go 5-0, it doesn't need to be internally balanced. It could just be absolutely busted, and that's what we're seeing with like Soul Blight with just zombies, right? But like ideally, I would take over a book going 5-0 or like having the ability to go 5-0. I'd rather have an internally balanced / externally balanced book that could go 3-2-4-1 most days than like always be like stomping and go 5-0. That's I think where you want the books to be realistic.
Yeah. I also think
Go ahead. I want to segue really quick and just say, if anybody did watch the video, I just found it very funny that there was like this like happy-go-lucky guy that like obviously was the good cop, and then there was like the guy in black that was like, I think he's been on there before, but like he was like the bad cop. And he was like, I will talk very distinctly about these stats, and we are looking into everything at every minor detail. Anyway, it was like comical how like punctuated the personalities were.
They put out a 20-minute long stat video.
Yeah. And to be honest, like, so I started the video off like very like I had my like typical like revolt against the machine, because they like really quickly said, we take all of these stats in order, and I don't know if they steal from BCP, but like I hope they pay BCP because they're taking BCP stats, and then obviously
I
like
hope they steal from BCP. Fuck those guys.
old lore and stuff, but like
I think they're also. I mean, they're drawing from their own hosted events too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I need to. That's what I want to know. Is I really wish that they had a breakdown or like a link to the stats they used.
Yeah.
So
Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, I also specifically want to see player pool included in those as well, because it's like there's a huge difference because Cam plays Fex, so Fex on all of our minds as the example for a lot of these. At this point, the remaining players who are loyal to Feck have probably 3 times the amount of games at this point than a lot of other people, like the ones who are still playing it. So they are the ones that are carrying these books into that 4-1, even 5-0 territory. And I want to see GW actually start to put the player pools in there, because if you just have 3 people constantly winning these games versus a good example that I actually want to bring up right now is Korn. I actually think Korn's win rate is way higher, but the player pool is so diluted because you have such a lot. You have 25% of the players are playing Korn kind of the way that it needs to be played and is actually really good and super finesse. Then you have 75% of the players, which might be, a couple thousand players running 3-4 Bloodthirsters and just pushing all of the models up the board and losing and being like, why is this book bad? And you're just like, well, it's, it's like the Stormcast thing. I don't actually think Stormcast have, that low of a win rate. I think the good players are constantly going 3-2, 4-1 with them, but you just have so many Stormcast players diluting the pool that it's pulling the win rate way down.
Yeah, I was actually going to comment on that. I was looking at some of the Honest Wargamer stats, and it's just like, let me go back to it real quick and get the
those
actual
stats just
number.
give so much more context when you look at them, because you also get to see like
the number of results. Yeah, so like for example, and this hasn't been updated since the middle of July, so like it's not even worth really talking about. But like, so like Gravelords on his thing is at a 56% win rate with 15,000 results logged, and then you go down to like Flesh Eater Courts, just because we're going to keep using them as our golden child, at a 49% win rate with 500, with literally a third of the games logged. So like, how will you just, I don't know. I'm a big fan of normalization of data, and no one's doing that because, why would you? But like if you were to somehow normalize all the results so that like it was all like equal weight, like what does that do to the results, right?
Yeah. I wonder if the distilled bit of information out of this is like stat transparency. Like, I wonder if like, because I don't know, like, I don't know how to like a numbers guy. I kind of am an analytics guy. I shouldn't say that really too loud because I think that's part of my job description. But like, I want, like with Rob's stuff, I feel like you could, a bunch of like number nerds could go into the documents and be like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And I feel, this is totally, anecdotal, but like, I feel like the MetaWatch stuff is like all under wraps and stuff. Like that's the only number you get. It's like the 500.
Well, I mean, it's like they don't have any. They don't have a what's it called a vested interest in being transparent, right? Because like,
there's my revolutionary spirit for the day again.
Yeah, it's almost damaging to put out only one stat. Is my thought process on like how people perceive how books might be doing based on that image, because it's like some books are just floundering and GW's like, oh yeah, they're doing fine. Their win rate's fine. We don't need to tell them. Like,
I mean, the other thing too with GW putting out stats is right. Like, they have like a 6 to 12 month horizon, like that's ahead of our own. So like what they're fixing today might, and I don't think they're doing this, but it could very well be that they know that in X number of months, that's going to be a problem. And this is our balance patch. So we're going to preemptively like balance it.
Yeah.
I don't know that they do it.
All right, moving on to the second one. We might cover some of these topics, but just because the book doesn't play the way you want it to play doesn't make it a bad book.
Yeah, that's kind of like what you were saying towards the end, Corey, with like Stormcast and like Blades of Corn. Like, and I hear a lot of people complain this way too, like with Feck. Like,
I
just
think
take
Feck's a great
100
example of
million
this.
ghouls. Just flood the board with ghouls in the Chalice, in the Gash.
And stand on points.
Yeah.
Well,
So people don't want to play that
Gash
game.
has now been like fecked out. Haha.
No, I mean, he still will give you models back, and he still lets you do some stuff.
This
Like,
is
it
not
doesn't
the
work.
Dash show.
It doesn't work like the way the Morgan thing used to work, but it's still another 3-up to return.
Yeah, but then you're playing just bad Soulblight, basically.
No, I think it's
Hey,
better.
it's a way to play.
Yeah.
It's the way that you need to play the book right now, quite frankly,
Yeah.
and or the Knights respawn. You know, game comes to mind. William Hayes, you know, played an awesome list at the retreat before that. He just kept bringing so many Knights back that, you know, granted I was playing Fire Slayers and that's a slower army, so I couldn't quite respond in a certain way to where he was kind of bringing a lot of these guys back. But that's quite frankly, I think you need to play that book as a just summoning book and focus on that. As and to Corey's point, you know, you can either do it with knights or you can do it with ghouls.
Huh?
I wish I could put like a little like tear on Cameron's face because I don't want to play it this way.
Gray out my camera.
You know, I see an opposite of this too, which is, you know, just because the book doesn't play the way you want it to play, I run into a lot of opponents that are like, my book sucks, and I'm like, then why aren't you running the God model? Like, you know, like, or why aren't you running the model that makes it work? Damn it, you know. And they're like, I'm too cool for that, and I'm like,
no, that's the same concept. Yeah,
like,
it's like if the book has a build that works and you don't want to play that build, it's not the book's problem.
Yeah. And then part two, accepting, you may not understand what the army is supposed to do. And
yeah, you just hit on that. Is that, you know, if you're playing, I played against a few opponents that they're just like, oh man, this army sucks. Like I played against a Night Haunt player that was complaining that the army sucked and he didn't have a Cruel Ghast in it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what to say at that point. Like, run the guy that literally reduces damage in half. Like,
yeah. Okay, so I'm just making sure I didn't miss any fun opinions. Actually, this is a fun opinion. Okay, so John always delivering. John, I just imagine you sitting at your coffee table like at 8:30, even though we posted that we were going to be a little bit later for the morning show, waiting on us. Anyway, so numero tres. Meta chasing has little or no impact on 4-1 or 5-1 players outside of minor tweaks to their already established list. I want to like yell that to the heavens, and I think Anthony is a really good example of this. Like we were talking about when the Slanesh changes came, he was like, yeah, I'll just have to take a couple different units in Slanesh, done. Like, versus like me, the meta chaser, being like, I need to change my whole army. This sucks. I hate it.
exactly.
Yeah, and I need to like buy a whole new army, which I think every day.
Yeah,
fun fact,
I think
I bought a lot of MCP the other day. That's a really non sequitur, but if anybody wants to play MCP,
it depends though. I'll be honest. Like, you remember the fly list? That got nerfed pretty heavily, and that people just stopped playing it.
So that was because of nightmares and the nightmares it caused. And I remember like Bill and Emma going head to head at ACO and just being like,
I mean, maybe you wouldn't count that as a minor tweak, I guess.
Yeah.
You count that as a major one.
But, you know, still hanging in there is Ryan, you know, playing damn.
Yeah, but he's not playing all flies.
Fly list. Yeah.
So
but again,
yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah, but to the point of this, I still think that like the biggest impact that mass meta chasing has is on those 2-3, 3-2 tables. The people who are consistently going 4-1, 5-0, you know, like Anthony Lawrence, once again, great example because he's probably our best local player, is the best local player actually. You know, he's not jumping on the Soulblight train right now. You know, Soulblight's big.
He did that last year.
Yeah, he did that last year. Literally stopped playing Soulblight when it got
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe if he's going to see everyone switch from zombies to skeletons, he might add in another, you know, unit, but he's not changing his whole list. The people that were going 5-0 are still going to go 5-0 based on just, you know, pure skill. One of the things I can think of is, you know, when cannons were coming out for ogres, you didn't see, you know, you saw a lot of people buy 4 cannons, which is fair.
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing a lot of people in the top 5-0 buying 4 cannons. You still saw cannons sneak into that 5-0 area because, matchups and things like that they can't control. But the players that consistently got those 5-0 results weren't dumping their models for cannons and ogre models and things like that.
Yeah, net listing, right? So that there's a lot of that happens. They're like, oh, I can just grab this list, but what you don't do is like the little nuance, like how am I going to score a battle tactic when things get desperate, or like on top of the fact that like net list people play against them so often that they're like, well, I know how to deal with this now.
Yeah.
And when you have kind of an off meta pick, you can, and you're good at it, you can kind of get around all the like hoops and bounds. Okay, cool. I like that little one. I'm interrupting Corey's 5 points. We're up to 3 to just say, is it do you have to be genius to go 5-0? Do you have to be like you have to be like that Einstein wizard, like Rob?
No, you need to have a good list that's paired for the meta. You need to also get good pairings. That's definitely a factor. Like, sometimes you just get paired into something you can't win against. Realistically. And then you need to be good and have good game IQ and have reps on the army. I think the combination of all those things. I think in terms of most important, it's obviously have good game IQ and know your army inside and out. So obviously reps first.
Yeah.
But there is some luck of the draw with like your pairings at events. Like you could just be like, as long as I don't get paired into something that's got like an absurd like shooting skew or something like that. And you get paired into like a KO gun line or like oops all like sentinels. Like you could have a bad day. But
I also think there's a lot to be said about that last game where it's like your nerves are frayed, you're tired, you're beat. You need like a little bit of endurance too.
I definitely don't have
to get in the
endurance. I think we talked about that like really early on in the show, and I'm like, I still don't have day 2 endurance. Like I wake up day 2 and I'm like, oh man, like
I got to my game 3 with Jeremy on the Alpha Omega RG, and I was like, I'm fucking beat. Like this sucks. Like I'm so tired right now.
Yeah, and to Kim's point, it is matchups do play into that because, back to the point of every army needs to be this is going to be a good one. Every army needs to be 3-2. You need to have baked in weaknesses. And if you just play like 4 of your weaknesses in a row, even if you play a perfect game, you're going to have a matchup where you make a bad move and suddenly things start to snowball and things go bad. Like I think about, perfect example, dragons into corn. Suddenly when you're sitting there being like, I just took 24 mortal wounds to my blood warriors that normally aren't supposed to lose more than, statistically 4 models anytime something swings into it. Shit, I just lost all of these. Like it's the matchup as well that you can't put, you got to put more into it.
Mm-hmm. I think what you just highlighted from Mason is a good point too, right? Like people that are consistently going 5-0 know their army and know like they have a script, right? It's like, okay, like this battle plan, turn 1, this is my battle tactic. Turn 2, this is my battle tactic. And then they have like these decision trees of like, okay, if my opponent does this, then I adjust this way, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good point, Mason.
What was the comment you dropped, Corey, which was like, or you could go through and not have read the battle pack, or like it's like
that was just
the what?
That was just me being a fuck up on that one. I didn't realize that grand strats were the tiebreaker.
Oh, yeah, grand strats these days. I'm still having trouble hitting them. All
right, I got to drop. Unfortunately, I've said my hot takes.
No worries. Thank you, Cam, for joining us. We're getting to the last ones here. Have fun at puppy school. Okay, so then where were we? Oh, that's comments. Okay, buttons. So I just had this up. It kind of did dovetail into what we were talking about, but like accepting you're not a 5-0 player, or that you can get to become a 5-0 player when you lose your shit a bunch of times, right? So if you lose a bunch and you play competitive players and they tell you what to do, like it usually helps. Like just for my own like weird story, my narrative, like I kind of feel confident about a 3-2 at this point, but like back in the day, I was like, I could totally 5-0 and I'd be constantly doing 2-3s, you know, and there's like small things that I've learned over many mistakes that put me in a scenario where like I can be like, I will confidently make this happen. And so, yeah, it's denial. Don't deny that you're just not good enough yet, you know.
Also not just on player skill, like if you like, it's a big thing where, and I see this a lot, if you like certain models, you should bring those models. You should put them onto the board, like the models that you think are cool, but like accept that not every model or not every list is going to be able to push you in that 5-0. Like, you know, my favorite model in this game is Juggernauts of Khorne. Like, I think that they're one of the coolest models. They happen to be pretty good right now, including 1 or 2. My goal, my dream would just be having an army of Blood Crushers. I think that would be super cool. Taking that to a tournament and expecting to go 5-0 with just Juggernauts would be very unrealistic and would just set me up to have a bad time. Like, it's okay to bring a list that you want to have fun with. Like, and it might not go 5-0 though.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, that it makes total sense. Speaking to the choir. Okay. And then our 5th and final point to cap off the day and let Corey get back to lunch and eating. Cause you know, he's got to fill those muscles. Establishing expectations. So that's kind of fits into kind of what we're talking about already, but, you know, I like the Feck book and everything they look like. I don't. That's weird hot take there. But, you know, establishing that, like, that's, like you said, not going to take you. I mean, a lot of, like, what I would call, like, hobby-only players that are like, I brought all Dimmergriff Knights. Like, I should definitely win. You're like, well...
Why am I not winning?
Well... Like, for every -1 rend you have, I have, like, -3 12 times, you know? Like, that's probably a factor. And also that I would say, like, you know, to temper expectations, like, we're, you know, up in the Northeast, like, filled with a bunch of ringers, you know, and ringers that know how to break books. And so, like, you know, if you want to compete with them with your playstyle and your book, you need to, like, be a little bit of a meta chaser, but also practice well, right? So you can't just be like, I'm the Feck player that's going to, like, play against, you know, Sam, Gavin, Corey, you know, I don't know, Rob or something, whatever. Like, people that are really good. And
I'm not good anymore. No,
like,
I'm washed up.
You're just busy. That's why. And you're just stuck on the cash.
Well, for this, like, establishing expectation things, I think it goes into those meta lists where if you just bring a meta list without practicing a whole bunch and even talking to the player that created the list and understanding, because to your point, they might have some weird, obscure battle tactic. Perfect example I can bring up, Nate Trentinelli. I think that he has additional pages in his Night Hunt book that I just don't have. Because he sees the strings in the system that, like, I just don't see. But he's if I was to run his list and then expect to have the same result as him, you would do bad. If you're just running meta lists, you're going to do bad. You need to establish that expectation. You know, the 4 cannons are going to only carry you so far. You need to establish the expectation that I didn't practice. I'm running a meta list. You know, I'm probably going to do 2-3-3-2, because if you're just copy pasting a list, not practicing and expecting that 5-0, you're going to get really frustrated when your decision tree just falls apart, and you're just kind of up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah. Unless you're Ben and you show up every once in a blue moon and just win tournaments. So just saying that. Shout out to Ben. But also he's got 30 years of experience before that, where, you know, we all learned or whatever. Cool. I'm excited about that. I want to make one comment on John. I think a lot of pigs is a good thing these days. It was fun. I played against Dave P. And he had 4x6 pigs, and it was a little overwhelming. I don't know if it's a 5-0 list.
It's a lot of pork.
Speaking of which,
A lot of pork.
But it was real fun to play against. So yeah. Any closing remarks from the pulpit do you think everyone, like, we should all, I think it'd be a fun tournament to go to where we all try to like 5-0 with a real like shit army book right now. Like we all try to go to like, I don't know, the Warhammer Open with like, you know, like a really off meta Night Haunt or a really off meta Slaves of Darkness. I think that would be really hilarious.
You know,
I'm going to do an off meta Soulblight list.
Is it a Nagash list?
Of course it is.
well, I think, you know, the last thing I just want to say is, you know, my last hot take is I know like a lot of people you see constantly are shitting on Night Haunt. I know it just brought it up. I actually think Night Haunt are probably one of the stronger books, actually, secret tech right now. Just because you can't interact with their battle tactics or grand strat. They're going to get 5. They're going to get their grand strat. You can't stop that. So you need to stop them from standing on circles, which, you know, you run essentially a bunch of hex wraiths, a bunch of just bodies. That's a tall ask.
Yeah.
Mason, I'm DMing you right now.
Jam left the Discord. No, I'm just kidding. Like, all I've heard from Jam is like, Night Haunt's not good enough right now. All I have is my unrendable thing.
Well, it's like a lot of people want, like, perfect example, a lot of people play Night Haunt. They're like, I want to do damage with Night Haunt because they're thinking about Blade Geists and what they could do with Blade Geists. Night Haunt, you don't need to do damage to win.
Yeah.
Just out-circle them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a thing that people
They're not going
fail
to deny
to
your
like
battle
understand
tactics.
a lot in this game, right? It's just like, you can win by doing no damage.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah, because it's literally like Night Haunt will get turn 1, turn 2, will get their battle tactic. You cannot stop it. They'll get Intimidate the Invaders, and they'll get the cast and end the spell one. You can't stop that.
So
the only potential way you could stop the Intimidate the Invaders is literally taking first turn and getting there before they do. And at that point, then you're doing damage with Night Haunt because you have the potential for a double turn.
yeah,
I would much rather accept that I just need to get them off circles than try to stand against the double turn of Night Haunt.
Yeah. So moral of the story, I'm going to sell all my armies right now for a Night Haunt army because obviously I can 5-0 with it. So
absolutely.
I learned
to become a death daddy with me.
Yeah. What is this Kronspine Night Haunt thing you're talking about?
I don't know.
Nagash.
I message Mason. I'll see if he gives me the sauce.
Kronspine. That sounds kind of brutal.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of points, but
sounds like a lot of trash. But
it's a lot of points. What is that? 1,200 points?
No, it's like almost 1,400.
Oh gosh. Men battle line. That's it. Cool. All right. Enjoyable.
3 squads of 3 bats. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everyone in the chat, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your day. Grab some food. It's lunchtime because it's also morning time. It's the morning show. Corey C, thanks for joining us. Someday we'll find Corey Prime. Sam, thanks for
we gotta play for Corey Prime. We're paired up in the pods. Maybe this weekend we can
I thought that transferred from the person who had it. If we don't know the person who had it, how do you?
No, there's like 2 categories. There's like the true Corey Prime, which is Corey and I's battle, and then there's Corey Prime adjacent, which Sam and Anthony both currently hold right now. If you beat a Corey, you can also be a Corey Prime.
Sam,
it's kind of like the actually that's probably not an okay thing to say. I was gonna say the story of how there was only one small person in the world, and now if you lose a fight to a small person. We're not gonna go there.
I don't even know where that went, but that went to a dark place. Anyway,
we'll talk after hours. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today on the morning, mid-afternoon, evening show. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Join us on our Patreon after chat.
Yeah, we have a Patreon.
We could. Should we do a Patreon? We're gonna do one.
We could.
No, we're gonna do an OnlyFans where it's gonna be Corey and I just eating chips, Ahoy, and milk.
The OnlyFans is like what the Warhammer fans, but there's a little lingo there that we.
There's $1 million idea. Let's just create a content platform for Wargamer content creators.
No. Just war games on OnlyFans,
that's small.
Or like,
Why do one? if we do that, we're just one content creator making money. If we make a platform for all content creators and take a cut, life's all about finding out. This is free information, and then we're going.
Scaling.
If you can find a way to be a middleman and just take a cut of everyone else,
Well, welcome to corporate America. So, if you didn't already know. All right.